So here we are at Eylau. The French have more or less decided that they've given up on getting any kind of really supreme victory or, anything more than maybe a marginal. Right now we're in the draw area of the game. And the French are moving forward, try to assert some force in the Eylau area so that maybe they can hold on to it. And they've pushed a lot of stuff in here to drive that unit out. That one's kind of in a little bit of trouble maybe. But elsewhere they're just kind of peeling back to try to defend that. They think that losing that 10 points would be a serious, serious blow to their chances of even just drawing. So they want to make sure that they get everything they can into that range. All right, I'll roll out the battles. And the French managed to win a couple of shoving matches, taking some position here because they've got a little bit of extension to another line, so they feel like they're covering Eylau better with that. No real gain, though. Actually, both were bad rolls for them. Ended up as attacker retreats, the weather switched in their favor, interestingly enough. Anyway, we're on to the Russians now. Russians and Prussians continue their kind of high-risk maneuver, trying to get Eylau into a pocket and just try to destroy it. Or at least force the French to get out of there. They've not been able to pull enough French down here, so it is beginning to look like the French might lose Eylau just to what's going on here as the Russians continue to throw into battles over here. And they're keeping an engagement way up here in the east. And here we have a position where the Ost division was able to push its way in and cut off this Moore unit. Now this is something that, say, in great battles of history doesn't happen, but in this game it's almost like these, it feels almost like a World War II type breakthrough situation where you knock a unit out and now you've got a unit surrounded. And this is one of the problems I have with these kind of simplistic systems is this doesn't necessarily feel terribly like a Napoleonic battle. I'm not saying these kind of outflanks don't happen, especially when you're talking about, well, the turns are only, no, they're fairly long turns. I thought they were like 20 minutes each. Now they're like an hour and 15 minutes each. So this kind of maneuvering, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. Because with that much time, yeah, maybe something like that could happen. But shouldn't the players have some chance to react to it? I don't know. It's all built into the die rolls, right? It just feels too much like a World War II game to me when it starts doing that. Of course, the way the dice go in this one, there was a serious turn of events due to the weather, and hey, not only is the French unit saved, but now this poor Ost unit is in a world of hurt here, and he's almost guaranteed a big 7-point unit to be dead on the next French turn. Well, about as guaranteed as the Russian attack was to kill the French unit, right? Didn't happen there, so may not happen here. Here we see the Prussians and the Russians beginning to really crush in, and they've got to allow isolated more or less. There's just this late connection here. Now remember, when I was talking about the way every other hex kind of works, this is sort of connected. There's a very go-like attitude to these war games where you kind of want to keep a light formation out in general when you can, because you can cover more ground and maybe protect the ground that you've got with better, with formations that'll collapse more nicely than if you have a solid line. And this is kind of one of those cases where this is a little bit more flexible. The problem is this is their defensive position, so having another piece here, and it's important, so having another piece here would have actually helped a lot. Of course, it's not a big deal because the hinge isn't there. It's in here too. So yeah, there's a lot of strength to that French position. All right, well, 2 more turns left. But the French have an interesting situation here. First of all, they're hitting some of these Prussian cav, or this Prussian cav unit, and I think I just cheated there. And they've definitely got an advantage on that. Big advantage. But here, they've got a real problem. This poor little cav unit is facing both of these. Now, there's nothing I can do about that. He's just dead, and that's going to cause nothing but problems for me because Eylau is getting weaker and weaker and becoming more and more an extension. The only thing that can help me is this. I'm drawing my line back so that there's no real threat on that end of it. We'll see. And the French have pushed forward nicely. Actually, I thought I got a 6, which is the, or no, a 5, which is the eliminated, instead of switching sides. I mean, anytime where there's incredible odds, defender eliminator or whatever, there's a chance that you could wipe out the entire attacking force even if it's got the 6-to-1 odds or whatever in this battle, which is kind of weird, but I find it kind of neat, actually. All right. Elsewhere, I think the French did pretty well. They destroyed the unit that they were wiping out here, and that gives them somewhat more connectivity between these. Eylau is a lot safer without that unit in place. It looks a lot better. Over here, they took the wood space, which is huge. They got that through a reversal. They were supposed to retreat, but they got a 5 or 6, actually, and moved them there. All right, now on to the Allied forces. Okay, so the Russians are commencing their attack on Eylau itself. A lot of force here to move into here. They want to take both hexes. They've got 2 turns to do it. They're going to try to take their time and take them, but they've got to kind of screen things. They threw the Prussians here, some Russian cav out here to complete that. Elsewhere, this, unfortunately, they're going to have to fight this at a 1-to-1, but they're making some more extreme attacks here to try to see what they can do to try to push the French line around a little bit there. We'll see. It would be a lot better if the fighting was going on down here. Up here, it's not really going to affect anything. Well, the Russians managed to make advances up here, although they got blown back here by the artillery. They pushed into the woods here, forcing more attacks and kind of pinning some French units, and they forced into Eylau. That was an exchange, but now they're forcing a French attack there. Oh, I didn't roll this one. That's a big old 2-to-1 there. It's a defender retreat. Good enough. And I think I'm not going to push that. I'm going to let the French move their cav if they want this way. The French are making attacks all over the place. Over here, up here, in Eylau itself, all across here, up here. Some of these forced, but a lot of them, they're just trying to push for that, maybe get it over into the marginal victory. We'll see. Probably he's going to go to somebody's marginal victory with this much violence. Maybe. I don't know. It's hard to tell with this game. Mixed results. A couple of big French units got wiped out over here, whereas they managed to pop this unit and make some grounds here, pushing forward with the artillery so they have both hexes of Eylau. This is the last opportunity in the game, really. The Russians are going to have to make some attacks. There's no question they have to attack here. There's no question they have to attack here. We'll see what they can do. Pretty much only going to make good odds attacks in the hope of driving this over, I guess. Well, here's the final positioning. The French have taken... have still both hexes of Eylau. The Russians were repulsed, even though they had tremendous odds, just by a change of fortune due to the weather. I'm going to count the points, come back, see what happened. Believe it or not, actual losses were 123 strength points on both sides. Both sides get the 15-point bonus. Great. We're exactly tied here. The French have 10 extra points for Eylau. Is that enough to push them out of the draw section? No, it's still a draw. The game's a dead heat here. As far as I'm concerned, both armies are pretty much destroyed. There's less remaining than there is dead. I'm not sure what that's supposed to represent, but this is kind of what you see with a game like this. And I just want to speak to this one in particular. First of all, there's the random aspect to Eylau, which is really ugly and pushes this out of the realm of what this combat results table usually gives you. This combat results table, unlike, it is very different from, say, the Avalon Hill one. The Avalon Hill one gave you results that weren't too different from this. And SPI's reaction to that was, that's bad. You don't want that many casualties. So usually this table is going to give you a lot more retreats. Well, still, if you end up surrounding enemy units, etc., you can pop them and kill them. So it can be bloody around the flanks, but it's usually pretty stable, and it's not really worth attacking too hard elsewhere, except to gain a temporary advantage for those kind of breakthrough type situations where you can pop a unit. This one's a little bit more bloody though, because 1/6 of the time a retreat's going to turn into an elimination. There's also the equal eliminations. Once you start pumping the odds up, you're going to get somebody killed. The question is, are you going to lose more yourself? Because you never lose less on an equal elimination. If you get a defender eliminator or whatever, yeah, you destroy them at no cost, and that's great. But in general, I've found that this table is better to use trying to get retreats on the opponent. Unfortunately, if you don't have numerical superiority locally, it's hard to force that kind of situation. It's hard to arrange to get that kind of knocking units back to where they die. And likewise, it's almost impossible to get the huge odds. But the huge odds are actually a mistake, I think. You don't want to go for them. You want to position your troops and not engage them. And that's something that's hard for me to remember. But when you don't remember it, you get things like this, I guess, where, you know, a lot of casualties are happening kind of accidentally. And it's just kind of a difficulty with it. I think it's the kind of game that if you got used to how to manipulate it properly, you might get more realistic results. I think the casualties we got here are well above what Eylau actually produced. Now, Eylau was a bloody battle, though. So, you know, it's kind of neat to see that aspect. I'm going to try to do Dresden next. I don't know how much I can stomach 2 of these in a row, but it kind of makes sense to just do them as a pair. They're not very big anyway. Up this one goes.